The chamber of the Galactic Conclave was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling curved so high that the lights looked like distant stars. The floor was smooth crystal, reflecting colors from banners that represented dozens of alien civilizations. Every seat was elevated except the central platform, which sat lower than all the rest, forcing anyone who stood there to look up. Today, that platform was empty. The air carried a low hum from translation fields and gravity stabilizers. Delegates murmured in their own languages, voices layered and filtered into something almost musical. This meeting was not meant to be dramatic. It was meant to be final. Humanity had already lost. At least, that was what everyone believed. On the upper tier, seated among royal observers, the alien princess watched in silence. She was young by her species' standards, her skin pale blue with faint silver markings that shifted slightly with her mood. Her eyes, large and dark, missed very little. She had been trained since childhood to read rooms like this one, not just words, but pauses, movements, and fear. Today, she felt something she did not expect: anticipation. The conclave speaker, a tall insectoid being with polished black armor plates, called the chamber to order. The sound echoed softly, carrying authority that had ended wars and erased civilizations. "The matter before us is the ratification of the Human Settlement Accord," the speaker announced. "This will formalize the reassignment of human-controlled territories and the dissolution of their independent governance." There was no malice in the words, only procedure. Several delegates flicked approval signals. Others barely paid attention. Humanity was old news, a short-lived species that expanded too quickly, trusted too much, and lost when larger powers decided they were inconvenient. The princess folded her hands in her lap. She had reviewed the reports: human fleets broken, colonies blockaded, supply lines cut. Their world still existed, yes, but under watch, under rule. The conclave believed it had been merciful, yet the princess could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. The speaker continued, "As per tradition, representatives of the affected species may attend as observers. Humanity has declined to send." The chamber doors opened, not slowly, not ceremonially. They opened with a clean mechanical sound, as if responding to an authorized command. Every head turned. Security fields flared faintly, weapons shifted, delegates hissed, clicked, or stiffened in alarm. A single figure stepped inside. Human, he was unarmed. At least visibly so. He wore simple dark clothing, not ceremonial, not military. His hair was dark, slightly unkempt. His face showed no fear, no anger. He walked with calm steps, as if he belonged there. The silence was immediate and complete. No species had ever entered the conclave chamber without invitation. The human did not hurry. He crossed the reflective floor and stopped at the central platform. He did not bow. He did not kneel. He simply stood, looking up. The speaker's mandibles trembled. "You are in violation of conclave law," it said sharply. "State your designation." The human looked around the chamber slowly, meeting alien eyes without challenge or submission. "My name is Elias Carter," he said. His voice was steady, clear, amplified gently by the translation field. "I am here because humanity was not invited." A wave of reaction rolled through the chamber. Anger, confusion, amusement. One delegate barked, "You lost the right to speak." Another hissed, "Remove him." Security drones began to move. The princess did not speak. She watched the human's posture. He was not tense, not desperate. His hands rested loosely at his sides. His breathing was slow. He was not here to beg. That realization sent a quiet chill through her. The speaker raised a limb. "This proceeding is already decided. You will be escorted out." Elias nodded once. "I expected that." He took one step forward. Alarms flared, energy fields sharpened, and then he stopped. "But before you do," he continued, "I want to ask a question. One you may want answered before you finish this treaty." The speaker hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. The princess noticed. "What question?" the speaker demanded. Elias tilted his head slightly. "Do you know why humanity never announced its surrender?" Laughter rippled from one section of the chamber. "You had no fleets left," a reptilian delegate said. "No leverage." Elias smiled faintly. "That's what you saw." The speaker clicked irritably. "Your species has already been classified. You adapt quickly, yes. But you are fragile, divided, predictable." The princess leaned forward. Elias looked directly at the speaker. "Then why did your outer monitoring stations fail last month?" The chamber quieted. "That is unrelated," the speaker said. "Is it?" Elias asked calmly. Because those stations were observing sectors you reassigned from human control, and they failed without damage, without attack, just stopped reporting. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The speaker's voice hardened. Coincidence, Elias nodded. That's what we hoped you'd think. The princess's markings shimmered slightly. A sign of surprise she had not meant to show, the speaker gestured sharply. Enough, remove him. The drones advanced. Elias did not move. Before you do, he said again, you should know something else. This chamber exists because of the first expansion war. That drew attention. The speaker paused. That is ancient history. Not to us, Elias said, because humanity studied it, the miscalculations. The overconfidence, the assumption that smaller species collapse when pressured. He looked around again. You didn't conquer us, he said softly. You interrupted us. The word settled heavily. The princess felt it land in her chest. The speaker opened its mandibles to reply and stopped. The princess rose from her seat. Gasps rippled across the observer tier. Royal observers did not intervene. Ever. Wait, she said. Her voice was clear, carrying authority that even the speaker could not ignore. The drones froze. The speaker turned slightly toward her. Your Highness, this is an intrusion. I am aware, she replied. Her eyes remained on the human, but I want to hear him finish. A dangerous silence followed. Slowly, the speaker lowered its limb. You may speak. Briefly, Elias inclined his head, not in submission, but acknowledgement. Thank you, he said. He looked at the princess for the first time. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. The princess felt something she had never felt in this chamber, recognition, not of status. Not of power, of intent. You expected fear, Elias said, addressing the room again. You expected silence or rage. What you didn't expect was this. He gestured to himself. One human, no fleet, no threat display. He paused. That's because when humans arrive quietly, it means the loud part already happened somewhere else. Murmurs spread rapidly now. The speaker snapped. You are implying a threat. No, Elias said. I'm explaining a misunderstanding. The princess studied his face. There was no arrogance there, no cruelty, only certainty. And what misunderstanding is that? She asked. Elias turned to her fully. You believe this treaty ends something. He took a breath. It doesn't, it starts something. The chamber buzzed with tension. Explain, the speaker ordered. Elias nodded. Humanity doesn't fight like empires. We don't hold lines when they stop making sense. We don't protect symbols when people matter more. Several delegates frowned. We step back, Elias continued. We learn, we connect, we adapt. He looked down at the reflective floor, then back up. You watched our fleets burn, he said. You didn't watch where our engineers went, where our scientists scattered, where our traders rerouted. The princess's eyes widened slightly. You didn't watch, Elias said quietly, who started listening to us. The room went still. The speaker's voice lowered. You are making dangerous claims. Elias smiled again, just barely. Humans are dangerous when ignored. The princess felt her instincts screaming now. The same ones that had warned her when the doors opened. She understood suddenly why his arrival felt so wrong. It wasn't defiance, it was timing. You stepped into this chamber without warning, she said slowly. Yes, Elias replied. Why? She asked. He met her gaze without hesitation. Because if we asked permission, you would say no. Silence stretched. The speaker finally spoke. Your time is over. Elias nodded once more. That's fine. He took a step back. But remember this, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Humans don't announce survival, we demonstrate it. He turned toward the exit. No one stopped him. As the doors closed behind the lone human, the conclave chamber remained silent. The princess stayed standing. She knew with a certainty that unsettled her deeply that history had shifted, and the galaxy had just been warned, quietly. The conclave chamber did not return to normal after the doors closed. The delegates pretended it did. They spoke in formal tones again. They repeated the old phrases about procedure and classification and the stability of the galaxy. They moved the treaty forward like a heavy machine that could not stop, even if someone screamed. But the silence the human left behind did not fade. It stuck in the air like a thin fog that everyone could feel and no one could name. From her seat in the observer tier, the princess watched faces instead of listening to words. She saw the speaker's rigid posture. She saw how a few senior delegates avoided looking at each other. She saw small signs of unease, tails tucked closer, frills lowered, fingers tapping a little too fast on armrests. Nobody admitted fear because fear was weakness, and weakness was not allowed in this chamber. A minor delegate asked to resume the reading of the Human Settlement Accord. The speaker agreed. Lines of text appeared above the central platform, glowing pale. The treaty language was neat and clean, full of careful terms. Reassignment of administrative authority. Restriction of off-world human travel. Reduction of independent human communications. The princess's stomach tightened. These were not just words. These were chains made of paperwork. She turned her attention to the empty floor where Elias Carter had stood. She replayed his voice in her mind, calm and steady. Humans don't announce survival, we demonstrate it. She had met many diplomats, many rebels, many defeated leaders. Their voices always carried something: anger, pleading, pride, despair. Elias had carried none of those. Only certainty. That was what frightened her, not because it sounded like a threat, but because it sounded like a fact. The speaker finished a section and asked for the next authorization. Several civilizations signaled approval. A few delayed by seconds, as if their hands needed time to obey their minds. The princess remained still. Her role here was symbolic, her instructors had told her. A royal presence to show unity, a witness to history, not a hand on the wheel. But she had felt the chamber tilt when the humans stepped in. She could not pretend she hadn't. The final authorization was about to be called. That was when she made a decision. She sat back down slowly and touched the small band on her wrist. It looked like jewelry. It was not. It was a private link to her personal aid and security unit outside the conclave hall. Her message was short. "Prepare my transport. Quiet departure. No announcement." A moment later, a single reply blinked. "Understood, Your Highness." She did not look away from the treaty text until the speaker officially adjourned the session for the intercycle break. Delegates rose, some stretching limbs, others surrounded by assistants. The hum of translation fields softened as private speech was allowed. The princess rose last. As she walked out, she felt eyes follow her, not because she was royal. That happened every day, because she had stopped the drones, because she had said, "Wait," and because everyone knew she had watched the human differently than the rest. Outside the chamber, the corridor was wide, bright, and lined with polished stone. Security posts stood at intervals. A few conclave officials bowed politely as she passed. Her escort, 3 guards in ceremonial armor, kept formation around her. They were trained for show and safety, not for making decisions. She did not speak until they reached her private corridor, a passage reserved for high observers. There, the noise faded. She turned to her chief guard, a tall, calm officer whose name translated roughly as Saren. "You will tell no one where I am going," she said. Saren's eyes widened slightly. "Your Highness, we are scheduled to attend the diplomatic dinner." "I will not attend," she replied. "That is unusual," Saren said carefully. "Yes," she said, "so be quiet about it." Saren gave a slow bow. "As you command." They moved quickly. Her transport waited at a private dock, sleek and silent. It was not a warship. It was a royal shuttle, fast, shielded, designed more for comfort than battle. Still, it could outrun most standard patrol craft. She entered and seated herself. The interior lights softened, the door sealed with a whisper. "Destination?" the pilot asked. The princess hesitated for only a heartbeat. "The archive annex," she said. The pilot froze. "Your Highness, the annex is restricted, even for me," she finished. "I know." Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. The pilot swallowed and nodded. "Yes, Your Highness." The shuttle lifted from the dock and slipped into the conclave's inner space lanes. Outside, the station's curved surfaces shimmered like a moon made of metal and light. The princess watched it recede. She thought of the speaker's words. Humanity has declined to send, and then the doors opening. No invitation, no announcement. Only a human walking into the center of power like it was a hallway. That was impossible, unless someone had let him in, or unless he had found a way around systems nobody questioned because they believed they were perfect. Either possibility was disturbing. The shuttle docked at the archive annex, a smaller station attached to the conclave like a quiet shadow. It held records from thousands of years: wars, treaties, species profiles, and sealed intelligence. It was a place that made kings uncomfortable because history did not always respect crowns. A security gate scanned her identity. Another scanned her escort. Then came the deeper scan, a silent, long sweep that examined intent patterns, authorization codes, and even stress levels. The princess kept her breathing calm. The gate opened. Inside, the air was cooler. The halls were narrow, lined with dark panels. Light strips ran along the floor. An archive custodian approached, its body thin and pale, its eyes enhanced by small devices. Custodians were not truly loyal to any single civilization. Their loyalty was to the archive itself. "Your Highness," it said, "this annex is not part of your scheduled movement." "I know," she said. "I am requesting access to restricted human conflict files." The custodian tilted its head. "For what purpose?" "For safety," she replied honestly. The custodian studied her, its gaze sharp. "Safety of whom?" it asked. The princess held its gaze. "Everyone." The custodian seemed to consider this. Then it turned slightly and gestured. "Follow." Her escort tensed. Saren leaned closer and whispered, "Your Highness, this is unwise. The conclave may interpret this as interference." The princess whispered back, "Then they should have invited the human." Saren went quiet. They moved through a series of security doors. Each one required a code. The princess used her royal clearance, but twice the custodian entered an additional sequence, as if her access alone was not enough. At last, they entered a dim room filled with floating data prisms. A central console waited, older and more secure than standard conclave systems. The custodian spoke softly. "These records are sealed by intercivilization agreement. Access leaves a trace." "I want the trace," the princess said. "Let them wonder." The custodian's eyes narrowed, then it tapped the console. A prism lit up and formed into a holographic archive menu. The princess stepped forward. "Search," she said. "Humans monitoring station failures last cycle." The system hummed. A list appeared, her pulse quickened. There were more entries than she expected, not many, but enough to be noticed. Several outer monitoring stations had indeed stopped reporting. The official note said technical anomaly, signal drift, unknown interference. But the deeper layer, hidden beneath the surface summary, was marked with a warning. Possible intentional disruption, source unknown. The princess stared. "Open the first report," she said. A recording played. A conclave technician spoke tense. Behind him, a display showed a station's last transmitted image. Stars, a distant gas cloud, and then a sudden, perfect silence. No explosion, no alarm, just dead signal. The technician's voice shook slightly. "We attempted remote reboot, no response." Physical inspection vessel reported the station intact, powered, but locked from internal command. System logs overwritten. The princess frowned. "Overwritten by whom?" The technician continued. "No known conclave signature matches the overwrite pattern. It resembles improvisational encryption." The princess looked at the custodian. "Improvisational." The custodian's expression did not change. "It means it was not made by a standard government system." The princess's markings shimmered again. She whispered almost to herself, "Humans." Saren shifted behind her. "Your Highness, are you suggesting the humans did this without ships?" The princess did not answer directly. She asked the archive instead. "Search for human technical capability, cyber operations. Decentralized networks." The system produced profiles. Most were older, written when humanity was first encountered. They described humans as energetic, curious, social. It spoke of rapid engineering. It spoke of unpredictable tactics. But then she found the newer updates. They had been filed during the conflict, and they were strangely incomplete, as if someone had not wanted them to be read. The princess opened one. It contained a short summary and then a blank section labeled, "Redacted by Order of Strategic Council." Her eyes narrowed. She turned to the custodian. "Who ordered this redaction?" The custodian paused. "A joint decision from senior delegates of 5 core civilizations." The princess felt her throat tighten. The core civilizations were the ones who ran the conclave, even if the conclave pretended it was equal. She asked, "Why?" The custodian answered carefully. "The official reason, preventing panic." The princess almost laughed, but the sound would not come. Preventing panic meant there was something worth panicking about. She leaned closer to the console. "Override the redaction." The custodian looked at her. "Royal clearance is not sufficient." The princess's voice went cold. "Then what is sufficient?" The custodian studied her face. Then it said, "Truth is sometimes sufficient." She held its gaze, confused. The custodian continued, "If you seek the full record, you must open it under a personal responsibility clause. It will not be hidden that you did." The princess did not blink. "Do it," she said. A symbol appeared, personal accountability required. Her thumb pressed the console. The system accepted. The redacted section appeared. The princess read quickly. The report described something conclave officials had not shared publicly. During the final months of conflict, human communication nets had not collapsed as expected. Instead, they had fractured into smaller units, then connected again in unpredictable patterns. Humans used civilian devices, improvised relays, and even old analog transmissions. They hid signals inside harmless broadcasts. They used trade routes and entertainment channels. They turned scraps into networks. The report stated in calm official language that human communications were extremely resilient and difficult to fully disrupt without full extinction-level measures. The princess stared at that phrase, extinction-level measures. Even the conclave had limits. Or at least it pretended to. The report continued. It described human engineers embedding logic traps in abandoned infrastructure. When conclave forces took control, systems would seem normal for weeks, then fail in carefully timed ways. Supply delays, power reroutes, navigation errors, not catastrophic but costly and confusing. The conclusion was blunt. Humans were not simply resisting. They were shaping the battlefield after retreating from it. The princess sat back, her mind racing. That was what Elias meant. You didn't conquer us, you interrupted us. She looked at another file. This one was labeled Human Trade Influence, Post-Conflict. She opened it. The report showed a strange trend. Independent traders from neutral species were increasingly using human-designed tools. Human software, human shipping methods, human repair kits, small things, practical things, not weapons, not armies. But every small adoption was a thread, and threads became nets. The princess whispered, "They're spreading." Saren's voice was tight. "Your Highness, that could be normal. Many species adopt useful designs." The princess shook her head slowly. "Not like this." She opened another file. It contained intercepted conversations from black market channels, people complaining about conclave fees, praising human logistics, joking about how humans always have a workaround. The tone was casual, but the pattern was clear. Humans were becoming the galaxy's problem solvers, and problem solvers became influential, because everyone needed them. The princess felt a cold understanding settle into place. The conclave had believed power came from fleets and laws. Humans were gaining power another way. By making themselves necessary. She returned to the monitoring station report. Stations disabled, not destroyed. No casualties, no explosions, just silence. That felt like a message, not "we can kill you." "We can touch your eyes and you won't even know it until you blink and see darkness." She stood. "I need to know how Elias Carter entered the chamber," she said. The custodian's eyes narrowed. "That is a security matter." "It is a reality matter," the princess replied. The custodian paused, then gestured toward a side console. "You may check access logs, but the conclave will see the query." "Good," the princess said again. "Let them wonder." She moved to the console and pulled up the chamber door logs. There should have been an authorization token, a code, a clearance stamp. Instead, there was a blank space. Not a denial, not a breach warning, a blank. The princess frowned, chills running along her spine. She asked the system, "Explain." A simple message appeared. "Access granted, internal maintenance routine." She stared. Maintenance routines were automatic. They ran at scheduled times. They were not supposed to respond to people, unless someone had rewritten them, or unless someone had convinced the system that they were part of it. Her eyes moved to the timestamp. The door had opened exactly when the speaker said, "Humanity has declined to send." Exactly, like Elias had timed it, like he had been watching. The princess's markings pulsed faintly, betraying her unease. Saren stepped closer. "Your Highness, we should leave. This is too much attention." The princess looked at him. Attention was already here the moment the human stepped in. She turned to the custodian. "Is there any record of Elias Carter, personal file, identity?" The custodian hesitated. "There are limited personal profiles. The conclave did not prioritize individual human records." "Then search what exists," she ordered. The system hummed again. A profile appeared, sparse. A name, a birth colony. A list of occupations that seemed strange together. Logistics engineer, crisis coordinator, cultural liaison, systems auditor. The princess frowned. Not a soldier, not a politician. A coordinator, someone who moved pieces, not swung swords. The file included a note from a conclave analyst. Subject appears in multiple areas of human organization. Unconfirmed role, possible network node. The princess's heart beat harder. A network node. That meant if Elias Carter was removed, the network would still exist. He was not a king, he was a connection. She felt the shape of it now. Humanity was not a single body. It was a swarm of ideas, a mesh. You could break a spear, but breaking a web was harder. She closed the file. "Where is he now?" she asked quietly. Saren frowned. "We don't know." The princess looked at the custodian. "Can the archive track him?" The custodian shook its head. "We are not a surveillance agency." She exhaled slowly, then a thought came. Humans did not announce survival, they demonstrate it. Elias had stepped in without warning, but perhaps he expected someone to follow. Perhaps his message was not for the conclave. Perhaps it was for her. The princess's eyes sharpened. "What do you know about human diplomatic channels?" she asked. The custodian replied, "Human channels are fragmented, many are unofficial." "Show me," she said. The system displayed a list of known human contact methods, some obsolete, some active. Most had been flagged as unreliable. One line stood out. A simple phrase marked as low priority because it looked like art, not code. A small symbol sequence. It had appeared in intercepted human broadcasts and on the hull of captured human cargo ships. It meant nothing in conclave language. But in the notes an analyst had written, possible meaning, "If you are reading this, you can hear US." The princess's breath caught. She asked softly, "Can I send a message through this?" The custodian's eyes narrowed. "It is unverified." "You could be broadcasting into empty space," the princess replied, "or into a waiting room." She placed her fingers on the console. Saren stepped forward quickly. "Your Highness, do not, if you send." The princess did not look at him. "If I send, the conclave will know I did." "Yes," Saren said, "and then they will pressure you, they will pressure your family, they will." The princess spoke quietly, but her voice carried iron. "They already pressured the galaxy." Saren fell silent. The princess typed a message, short, careful, honest. "I saw you." "I read the station reports. What do you want?" She added the symbol sequence the humans used, then she sent it. The console confirmed transmission. The custodian made a quiet sound. "That was unwise." The princess turned to it. "Truth is sometimes sufficient," you said. The custodian did not reply. They waited. Seconds passed. Then a minute, no answer. Saren released a small breath. "Empty space." The princess did not move. Another minute passed. Then the console chimed softly. A reply appeared. It was not long. It was not emotional. It was not a threat. It was a question. "Do you want the conclave to stay stable or do you want it to stay comfortable?" The princess stared at the words. They felt like Elia's, simple, sharp. Behind her, Saren whispered, "Your Highness." She did not answer him. She typed carefully, "I want stability without chains." The reply came quickly this time. "Then meet where your cameras can't decide who to blame." A set of coordinates followed, not inside the conclave station, not far away either. A neutral maintenance platform in the shadow of the annex. The princess's throat tightened. This was dangerous, but every path from here was dangerous. If she ignored it, the conclave would proceed. Humanity would be bound tighter. Tighter chains meant more tension. More tension meant eventual snap. If she followed it, she could learn what humans were truly doing and maybe prevent something worse. She looked at Saren. He read her expression and shook his head. "No." "Yes," she said. Saren's voice rose slightly. "Your Highness, this could be a trap," the princess replied. "Then it is a trap set by someone who could already open conclave doors." Saren froze at that. She continued, softer, "If humans wanted me dead, I would not have received a question. I would have received silence." Saren swallowed. The princess turned to her escort. "2 guards only. The rest remain at the shuttle. No broadcasting." Saren hesitated, then bowed. "As you command." They returned to the shuttle and undocked quietly. The pilot followed the coordinates, moving along maintenance routes where official traffic rarely went. The lights outside were dimmer. The conclave station's bright shine faded behind them. The maintenance platform came into view. It was a simple structure, metal beams, docking clamps, storage containers. Built for workers, not diplomats. No banners, no ceremony. The shuttle latched on. Saren stepped out first, scanning. 2 guards followed, hands near their tools. The princess stepped out last. The platform smelled faintly of cold metal and recycled air. There was no one visible. Saren whispered, "Your Highness, we should return." The princess raised a hand to quiet him. She walked forward slowly. Her footsteps echoed. At the center of the platform stood a sealed maintenance door, marked with warning symbols for non-authorized entry. The princess stopped in front of it. Nothing happened. She waited. Then, from a side corridor, a figure emerged. Human, not Elias. This one was older, with light hair and a tired face. He wore a simple work suit with no markings. He held his hands open, showing he carried nothing. He stopped a few steps away and gave a small nod. "Your Highness," he said, the translation field picking up his voice automatically. "Thank you for coming." Saren stepped forward, tense. "Identify yourself." The human looked at Saren, then back at the princess. "Names are less useful than roles. But if you need one, call me Mara's friend." The princess frowned. "Mara," the human nodded. "A human medic, captured during the blockade of Kestrel Station, treated your people, your sister's envoy, if I remember correctly." The princess's eyes widened. That had happened. Quietly, a minor incident, officially forgotten. A human medic had helped treat wounded aliens during a station accident. The report had praised her professionalism, then buried the story because it complicated the narrative of humans as simple troublemakers. The princess breathed, "I remember." The human's expression softened slightly. "Good, that means you remember humans as people, not as a file." Saren's voice was sharp. "What is this? Why bring her here?" The human glanced at the sealed maintenance door, then back. "Because your Highness asked what we want," he said, "and because we want to show you something." The princess held his gaze. "Show me." The human stepped aside and pointed at the door. "Behind that," he said, "is a signal hub that is not supposed to exist." Saren's eyes narrowed. "Conclave infrastructure is mapped. There are no—" The human interrupted gently. "Yes, that's why it works." He moved to a panel beside the door and placed his palm on it. The door opened. Saren's weapon tool lifted slightly, but the princess raised her hand again. They entered. Inside was a narrow chamber filled with equipment that looked half conclave, half improvised. Cables ran in strange patterns. Interfaces were patched together. A small screen displayed network traffic as flowing lines. The princess stared. "This is illegal," Saren whispered. The human replied, "So was the treaty you were about to sign." The princess looked at the equipment again. "What is it?" The human's voice remained calm. "A listening bridge, not to spy on private lives, to watch the big systems, to track pressure, to measure what the conclave is doing in the dark." The princess's throat tightened. "You disabled the monitoring stations," she said. The human did not deny it. "We muted a few eyes, yes, not to blind the galaxy, to stop the conclave from watching only one direction." Saren snapped, "That is sabotage." The human looked at him. "It's balance." The princess stepped closer to the screen. "Why show me this?" The human's answer came without hesitation. "Because your Highness is not like the others," he said. "When Elias stepped into your chamber, you didn't reach for anger. You reached for attention." The princess felt heat rise behind her eyes, not from emotion, but from pressure. "Elias planned this." The human nodded. "He planned many things." She asked, "Is he the leader?" The human almost smiled. "Humans don't do leaders the way you expect. Elias is a point of contact, a person who can walk into a room and speak like the floor belongs to him." "That's a skill." The princess's voice tightened. "Then why is he provoking them?" The human's face grew serious. "Because comfort makes the conclave careless, and careless makes it cruel." The princess looked at the screen again. She saw trade routes. She saw energy allocations. She saw patrol patterns. She realized with a slow chill that this was not a weapon. It was an understanding. Humans were learning the conclave like a musician learns an instrument. They were finding every note, every weak string. She turned back to the human. "What do you want from me?" The human replied, "A choice." The princess's markings shimmered again. "What choice?" The human leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice like he was sharing a secret, not a threat. "You can return to the conclave and watch them tighten chains until something breaks," he said. "Or you can help loosen those chains quietly, give them a way to step back without losing face." The princess swallowed. "That would anger them," she said. "Yes," the human replied. "But not as much as what will happen if they keep pretending humans are finished." Saren stepped forward. "This is manipulation." The human looked at him with calm eyes. "Everything in the conclave is manipulation. The difference is what it's used for." The princess's mind raced. Elias had walked into plant doubt. Now this human was offering a path. Not war, not surrender, a shift. She asked carefully, "How?" The human pointed at a section of the screen. "This is the human settlement accord traffic, the data packets, the enforcement schedule." "The restrictions." The princess stared. "How do you have that?" she whispered. The human answered simply, "Because you can't lock out a species that learned to pick locks before it learned to fly." The princess felt a strange, sharp admiration she did not want to feel. The human continued, "We can't stop the conclave by force without making a mess." We can stop it by making it expensive, complicated, politically risky. We can show them that control will cost them stability. The princess looked up. And you want me to do what? The human met her gaze. You want stability without chains. We want the same. Use your voice to call for a review period. Demand oversight. Ask why the redactions exist. Make them slow down. The princess's heart pounded. A review period could be framed as responsibility, she murmured. The human nodded. Exactly, let them save face. Let them pretend it was their idea. Saren whispered urgently, Your Highness, this is... The princess lifted a hand again. She looked at the human. If I do this, they will watch me. They already are, the human said. She asked, and what happens if I refuse? The human's voice stayed gentle, but it carried weight. Then humans will keep demonstrating survival in ways the conclave doesn't understand. And eventually someone will panic. Panic makes mistakes. The princess closed her eyes briefly. She imagined the conclave moving forward, tightening rules, restricting travel, limiting communication. She imagined humans responding with quiet workarounds, deeper networks, more silent disruptions. A spiral, a slow tightening, then a snap. She opened her eyes. How do I contact Elias? She asked. The human smiled faintly. You already did. He tapped the console and a small window appeared, an active channel. A message waited, only 2 words. Still listening? The princess's breath caught. She typed with steady fingers. Yes. The reply came instantly. Good, then here's the truth. They didn't defeat us. They only made us learn faster. The princess stared at the words, feeling the same chill and the same strange clarity. Outside, the conclave station glowed in the distance, bright and confident. Inside the maintenance platform, the princess realized something important. Humanity was not knocking at the galaxy's door. Humanity was already inside the walls, and they were choosing carefully what to break and what to protect. She turned toward the exit. Saren stepped with her, tense and silent. The princess looked back one last time at the human and the equipment. I will do what I can, she said. The human nodded. That's all we ask. She left the maintenance chamber and stepped into the shuttle. As the doors sealed, her heart still raced, but her face remained calm. Because now she understood the meaning of Elia's step. It was not just defiance. It was a signal, a warning made without violence. A message that said, we are here, we are awake, and we are done being treated like a problem that can be filed away. The shuttle detached and slipped back toward the conclave, quiet as a thought. The princess sat in her seat, hands folded, eyes focused. When she returned, she would wear her calm smile. She would speak in polite terms. She would ask careful questions. But inside, her mind was already moving, not like a royal watching history, like someone about to change it. The conclave did not notice the change right away. That was the strange thing about power. When it had been held for too long, it stopped feeling the air shift. It assumed the floor would always stay firm beneath it. The princess returned to the station with the same calm posture she always wore. Her face was composed. Her steps were measured. To anyone watching from a distance, she was the same royal observer who had quietly attended countless sessions. But inside her mind, everything was moving. Her shuttle docked. The doors opened. Advisors approached with prepared schedules and polite concern. Your Highness, the review committee will convene in one cycle, one aide said. The speaker expects your presence. The princess nodded. I will attend. No one questioned her tone. No one guessed that she had already decided what she would say. As she walked through the bright halls of the conclave, she felt the eyes again. Not openly, not boldly, just enough to notice. Whispers followed behind her, stopped when she turned her head. She was being watched now. That was expected. When she reached her private chambers, Saren dismissed the guards and sealed the doors. The room fell quiet, the walls shifting to her preferred dim light. Saren turned to her, his expression tight. Your Highness, what you are planning will anger powerful people. She looked at him. They are already angry, they just don't know why yet. Saren shook his head slowly. You trust these humans too much. The princess met his gaze. I trust patterns. Humans are a pattern the conclave refused to study. She moved to the central console in her chamber. It responded to her touch, displaying news summaries and internal memos. She filtered through them quickly. Already there were signs. A shipping delay blamed on logistical recalibration. A patrol reroute explained as routine efficiency testing. Small things, quiet things, humans at work. She opened the secure channel again. Elias' presence indicator was faint but active. She did not message him yet. Instead, she prepared. The review committee met in a smaller chamber, circular and enclosed. This was where uncomfortable questions were discussed, away from public display. Senior delegates gathered, along with the speaker and several legal experts. The princess entered last. The speaker inclined its head. "Your Highness, we were not informed you would take an active role," she smiled politely. "That is why it is called a review." A few delegates shifted. The speaker gestured for her to sit. "We are here to finalize the timeline for enforcing the Human Settlement Accord." The princess folded her hands. "Before timelines, I request clarification." The speaker's mandibles tightened slightly. "Clarification on what?" She spoke calmly, each word chosen carefully. "On the redactions." The room went still. One delegate, a heavy-bodied being with layered skin plates, spoke sharply. "Those sections are sealed for security." The princess nodded. "Yes. And as a royal observer responsible for interspecies stability, I require understanding of what threatens that stability." The speaker replied, "The redactions concern incomplete intelligence." "Incomplete," the princess echoed. "Or inconvenient," a low murmur spread. The speaker's tone hardened. "Your Highness, this is not the place for accusation." She met its gaze without flinching. "Then it is the place for truth." Silence stretched. She continued, "Human communications were described as fragile. Yet we now see fractured networks that survived full disruption. Monitoring stations failed without damage. Trade influence increased despite sanctions." The speaker snapped, "Coincidences." The princess tilted her head. "Then why were analysts ordered to stop updating human capability reports?" That struck harder. A legal expert shifted nervously. "Those orders were precautionary." "By whom?" the princess asked softly. No one answered. She pressed on. "The accord assumes humans are finished as an independent force, but evidence suggests otherwise. Pushing enforcement without review risks escalation." One delegate hissed, "Escalation from whom? They have no fleets." The princess replied, "They do not need fleets to cause instability. They need access." The speaker leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we delay enforcement because humans might be disruptive?" "I am suggesting," the princess said, "that enforcing control on a species that thrives on adaptation will not bring peace. It will bring resistance you cannot easily see." A delegate scoffed. "You sound impressed by them." The princess did not deny it. "I am concerned for the conclave." That changed the tone. The speaker studied her. "And what do you propose?" She took a slow breath. "A review period, 60 cycles, independent oversight, limited enforcement while data is reassessed." Murmurs erupted. "That undermines authority," someone snapped. "It signals weakness," another said. The princess replied evenly, "It signals caution. Weakness is charging forward blind." The speaker's voice dropped. "You are overstepping your role." The princess leaned slightly forward. "My role is to prevent wars the conclave pretends it cannot start." Silence fell like a heavy curtain. At last, the speaker spoke. "We will consider a limited review." It did not say how limited. The princess nodded. "That is all I ask." As she rose to leave, she felt the weight of their stares. She had not stopped the accord, but she had slowed it. That was enough for now. Outside the chamber, Saren exhaled sharply. "You shook them." "They needed shaking," she replied. He lowered his voice. "They will push back?" "Yes," she said, "and humans will notice." Later that cycle, the first push came. A formal notice arrived stating that her access to restricted archives would be temporarily adjusted. Her travel schedules were reviewed. Her advisors were questioned. Nothing overt, just pressure. She smiled through it all. That night, alone in her chamber, she finally opened the channel. "I did what I could," she sent. The reply came after a pause. "You did exactly what we hoped," Elias wrote. "They're slowing down." She typed, "They are also watching me." "They were always watching you," he replied. "Now they're worried." She hesitated, then asked the question that had been forming in her mind. "What happens next?" The reply was longer this time. "Now the conclave shows its real shape. Some will double down, some will hesitate. Some will quietly prepare exit plans. Humans don't need them all. We only need enough." "Enough for what?" she asked. "To change the rules," Elias replied. She closed her eyes briefly. The following cycles were tense. Reports came in of increased conclave patrols near human territories. New regulations were proposed, then quietly delayed. Committees argued. Delegates split into factions, those who wanted strict enforcement and those who sensed danger in pushing too hard. The princess watched it unfold like a slow fracture. Humans stayed quiet, too quiet. That worried her more than open defiance. Then came the incident. A mid-level conclave logistics hub malfunctioned, not catastrophically, no loss of life. But shipments were delayed across 3 sectors. Aid supplies failed to arrive on time. Trade partners complained. An internal report blamed outdated routing software. The princess read the deeper analysis. Human origin code fragments detected. No signature, no claim. Just influence. The speaker called an emergency meeting. The princess was summoned. This time the chamber felt different, tighter, angrier. "This is sabotage," a delegate barked. "Proof that the humans are acting in bad faith." The speaker's eyes locked onto the princess. "Your Highness advocated delay. Now we see the result." She kept her voice calm. "You see inconvenience, not war." "Inconvenience breeds unrest," the speaker snapped. "And unrest breeds collapse," she replied. "Which is why restraint matters." Another delegate leaned forward. "Or decisive action?" the princess asked. "Define decisive." The delegate's answer was careful but clear. "Cut remaining human networks, full isolation." The room buzzed. The princess felt a chill. That would not end quietly. She said slowly, "You would be cornering them." The speaker replied, "They cornered themselves." The princess shook her head. "No, they adapted." The speaker rose, towering. "You are defending them again." She met its gaze. "I am defending stability." The speaker's mandibles flexed. "Then perhaps stability no longer includes your involvement." The threat was clear. After the meeting, Saren spoke in a low voice. "They are considering removing you from the process." The princess nodded. "I expected that. What will you do?" She looked at the stars beyond the viewport. "The same thing humans do, which is adapt." That night she contacted Elias again. "They are considering full isolation," she sent. The reply came almost immediately. "We anticipated that." Her pulse quickened. "Then why provoke them?" "We didn't provoke," Elias replied. "We demonstrated." She typed, "They may strike hard." "They can try," Elias answered. "But cutting networks requires knowing where they are." She stared at the message. "You're saying they don't," she typed. "They don't," Elias confirmed. She leaned back, tension easing slightly. "Then why do I feel like something is about to break?" she asked. A pause, then Elias replied, "Because this is the moment where they choose fear or humility." The next cycle proved him right. The conclave announced a new measure, selective isolation trials on 2 minor human settlements. Limited scope, test enforcement. The announcement was calm, the effect was not. Neutral species protested quietly, traders complained. Aid organizations warned of consequences. The princess stood before the speaker once more. "This is escalation," she said. "This is control," the speaker replied. "Control without understanding," she countered. The speaker's voice was cold. "Understanding is overrated." That was when the humans responded. Not with attacks, with stories. Across neutral networks messages appeared. Simple recordings, human voices, human faces. Engineers fixing alien machines. Doctors treating non-human patients. Traders honoring deals when others broke them. Nothing dramatic, nothing illegal. Just presence, the narrative shifted. Humans were no longer distant troublemakers. They were neighbors, partners, people. The conclave tried to suppress the spread, but the stories were shared privately, passed from device to device, told in ports and markets. You couldn't blockade a reputation. The princess watched it happen with a mix of awe and fear. "They are changing perception," Saren said quietly. "Yes," she replied, "and perception is power." The isolation trials faltered. Enforcement teams faced quiet resistance, not violence but refusal. Neutral crews delayed cooperation. Bureaucrats asked uncomfortable questions. The cost rose. The speaker called another emergency session. This time its voice carried strain. "The humans are manipulating sentiment," it said. The princess replied, "They are reminding the galaxy who they are." The speaker snapped, "They are not who they pretend to be." "They never pretended," she said. "We assumed." Silence followed, then a delegate spoke, hesitant. Perhaps the review period should be extended." Others murmured agreement. The speaker glared but did not object. The fracture widened. Later in her chamber, the princess received a final message from Elias that cycle. "You're holding the line longer than we hoped," he wrote. She replied, "They're closer to breaking than admitting." "They always are," he said. "That's why this matters." She asked, "What happens if they push past fear?" A pause. Then Elias answered, "Then humans stop being quiet." The princess closed the channel slowly. She stood by the viewport, watching ships move like distant thoughts across the stars. She understood now. Part 1 had been a signal. Part 2 had been preparation. This pressure, this hesitation, was the turning point. Either the conclave would learn to bend, or it would force humanity to show what it had been carefully holding back. And that, she knew with deep certainty, would change the galaxy forever. She whispered to herself, not in fear, but in resolve. Please choose wisely. Far away, unseen and unannounced, humanity waited, not with fleets, not with threats, but with patience. And patience, she was learning, could be far more dangerous than war.